All right, y'all. Let's talk Denver Broncos today. What's going on with them? 1-1 right now on the season. Lost to Seattle Seahawks. Close one with the Houston Texans. We're going to talk about that team. Dive into some of the injuries, some of the things they're dealing with off the field as well. Right here on the San Francisco 49ers Morning Show. Let's go.
Intercepted. It is picked off by Aaron Crocker over midfield. He'll run it all the way into the end zone. Touchdown.
Crosstalk TV podcast. Peace.
Welcome to another episode of the San Francisco 49ers Morning Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker, and I did not check my mic settings, but I'm checking them now and hoping everybody's having a good morning. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling refreshed. I'm feeling like I just got over hump day. Actually, I ain't gonna lie. Like, yesterday was tough. I recorded 5 podcasts. That's including the morning show. All right, but a lot of talking about sports. And for those of y'all, man, there were a lot of y'all in the chat last night. Had my guy Quincy Avery on with Greg Pinelli and I, where we're talking all things quarterback. We talked about Trey Lance, talked about Justin Fields, and some of the other guys that Quincy Avery works with. And that was some fun stuff. Quincy, I told him, he was like, man, can I cuss? I'm like, dude, be yourself. And that's what we try to do on here. We try to be ourselves. So Quincy, I really appreciate him coming on. That was some fun stuff, having that conversation with him, having the conversation with, obviously, my guy Greg Pinelli, talking about full-throating, which I'd never heard the term full-throating before, but I know everybody in the chat got a kick out of that. Shout out to my guy, who sent it? Who sent it to me? I can't think of who sent me there. Terradome. It was Terradome who, he originally said full-throating, which, again, I had never heard that before. And we had some fun with that. But I see the flames coming in. Everybody feeling good. Ooh, that's like 10 flames right here. So I know my guy's feeling extra good this morning. Maybe got that full throat and whatnot. We got Mike Shields in here. 5 flames. Here we go. 904 Live. Got a bunch of flames. Let's go. Lake City Fresh. Saw you in the chat last night. Shout out to everybody, man, that's in here. And if you are new to the show, if you just now subscribe because, I don't know, you just randomly found the show pop up on your 49ers algorithm, the flames, man, that lets us know how we're doing. All right, that lets us know how we're doing, how we are from a mental health checkpoint standpoint. And I always say, man, my line is open if you ever need anybody to talk to. You know, I talk about my wife's situation that she went through. And she always talks about how the most helpful thing was having me to talk to. So if y'all need somebody to talk to, you ain't got nobody, I'm here for you. DM me. I'll shoot you my number, all that good stuff. But it's late September, and Jimmy G is the full-time starter. Twilight Zone. I know, right? I mean, who would have thought? I mean, we always knew that there was an opportunity for it, but I think the way it happened was a little weird. Here we go. Got my guy Abel in the chat, North Stockton. What up, baby? That's my brother right there. 4th grade. Matter of fact, I lived in San Jose, and we moved back to Stockton when I was in the 4th grade. And the first friend I met, 4th grade, Westwood Elementary, my guy right here, Abel Somsack. Right there, Abel. Shout out to my dog, Abel, man. That's my brother right there. Let's go. First friend I had in 4th grade. Big ass head. He got a big ass head. Huge calves. He was fast too. Someone said, "Crocky, you good?" Nah. I don't know why. Got a little raps. Got a little deep voice this morning. I don't know what's going on with the voice. But yeah, now I'm good. I feel good. I'm not sick. I mean, I don't really get sick in general, but I don't know. Yeah, you're right there. I can hear it. I can hear it for sure. I can hear it. Do you think it's right to move? Do you think it's the right move to sit Trey for the season now that it's been announced? I think if he was able to return and you can bring him back and play him, a percentage of snaps, which yesterday I spoke about, just I need him to get 20% of the snaps if he is able to come back. And maybe Kyle Shanahan's like, I don't want to deal with that. We just want to focus on football. And we'll deal with Trey Lance next year. So they feel like that's what's best. Kyle Shanahan knows a lot more than me, so I'm not going to go against what he feels is the right way to go about things. I'd say he has a plan, and they'll continue to figure it out. Am I going to Denver? I am not going to Denver. I actually thought about it, but man, I mean, you know what I'm saying? This gym, I pay a decent amount. So anybody that has a business, y'all know that it doesn't just take off right away. And luckily for me, I have trained a lot of athletes, so I'm good from that standpoint. But right now it's a downtime for training. So anybody that's a trainer, you'll have your people that continue to come. I definitely do. I still have my private sessions. I still have some small group sessions, but not as many kids as I typically would come January through August. All right, so that stretch, that's kind of my prime time for training. Right now is more of a downtime. So I say all that to say, you know what I'm saying? I got a legit overhead, mortgage overhead or whatever you want to call it of the building, and having to pay that on top of traveling and stuff like that. It just takes away from it just a little. It takes away from my ability to move around as much as I would like to. So luckily for the podcast and stuff, I'm able to still do well and be able to, make sure I take care of all my business and whatnot. But let's talk about some Denver Broncos stuff. And real quick, does anybody have any takes on anything Quincy Avery said last night? There was a lot. So y'all would have to go in there and watch it back if you haven't already. I know a good amount of y'all were in the chat with Quincy Avery. But, yeah, it was good stuff. Do you have a good tax guy to guide you with your businesses? No. Okay, so I started doing this podcast. It's called the Not Ideal Podcast. I need to jump back in there and talk about some of the updates, but I really want to get into doing it every week. And the Not Ideal Podcast really was more so about just the realness of entrepreneurship, because essentially that's what I am, right? An entrepreneur. Which I don't have a 9-to-5 job. I don't have anywhere. I go and I punch in, clock. If I come on here and do the morning show, I do it. If I don't, there's nobody that's well, except for my guy Chris, he holds me accountable. But there's nobody that's oh, Croc, you got it, But anyways, I talk about a lot of those things on the show, and I also talked about not being used to making a decent amount of money. Before, it was simple, just, okay, you work a job, I worked at the school, I get my tax return, I take it to TurboTax or whatever, they do the tax, or my wife does it online, whatever, right? H&R Block, wherever you go, and you just hand it in. Well, it's a lot different for me now, because I don't have when I get paid from Locked On Network. Anything that has paid me, I get payments from a bunch of different places, whether it's Locked On, Bleacher Report. I've done some things with them. I continue to. I actually have a meeting with Bleacher Report today, because I'll be on, I believe, next week or Sunday. I'll be on coming up with Bleacher Report. But anyways, these people pay me, and it's a payment. And it's not there's not taxes and stuff taken out. So that was something that I wasn't used to at first. So what I just started doing was just putting away extra money and definitely using everything as a write-off, right? So if I go to the 49ers Broncos game, use it as a write-off. If I go to, I went to the 49ers Chicago game, my hotel stay, etc., I put on a certain card, use it as a write-off. So doing well at keeping track of those type of things, but as far as having a tax person that I have to guide me, I don't have that. But that's something I need to get for sure, because I've made a decent amount of money this year off of this stuff, and I know I got to pay taxes on stuff, and I'm not well versed with the process of all that. So. Yeah, definitely got to get a tax person. I'll probably get that coming up soon, and them kind of guide me through the rest of this year on how to do things, and then make it easier for me to pay taxes and whatnot afterwards. So, yeah, I gotta get that. All right, but anyways, here we go. Denver Broncos, 49ers taking on Denver Broncos Sunday. Right now, at least the last time I checked last night, the 49ers were 1.5 favorites, which I thought would be the case. I was on the show with D-Lo and KC. They got their radio show, ESPN Sacramento, and I talked about how since Trey Lance went down, I'd expect the 49ers, for a lot of these games to actually be the favorite, right? Because you just know more of what you're getting with Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think the line moved a little bit for them, right? Just, Russell Wilson versus Trey Lance, Russell Wilson versus Jimmy Garoppolo. Because of the team, I think you could put the 49ers over them. But the 49ers are 1.5 favorites on the road in Denver. And you look at Denver and kind of how they've played so far this year, and I pulled up some stats. I talked about that first game. Damn, I got to sneeze. I got to sneeze. But I talked about what? Everybody keeps saying that Trey Lance is a bust, but how would you know Jimmy better win the Super Bowl this year? I'd say this about if they say Trey Lance is a bust. Just be like, all right. All right. Because at the end of the day, you'll truly find out. And that kind of reminds me of like me messing with my wife, right? Sometimes I just pick on my wife. I would say things to try to get a reaction out of her. And dang, I can't get the reaction out of her, right? Like, or my wife, she'll bother me sometimes to try to get a reaction out of me. Like, playful stuff. And the more you feed into it, the more, it flames the fire. What is that? Fuels the fire, flames the fire. You know what I'm trying to say. The flames get bigger, like the more you feed into that stuff. So, Trey Lance is a bust. Okay, sure. We'll find out, but I don't think you know after 4 games. I'd say it's not ideal that he didn't play a rookie year and then he only lasted a quarter and a half his second year as a full-time starter. Like, that's not ideal. But to say, like, bust, I would ask somebody, what's your definition of a bust? Because typically, I would say a bust that somebody who's a bust, like a year and a quarter or a game into their career, would be someone who just is clear that they're just never, ever going to play. And I don't think that's the case with Trey Lance. Right? Like, who was the kid? Jenkins, A.J. Jenkins. A.J. Jenkins for the 49ers as a rookie had 0 catches. He was drafted in the first round. He had 0 catches, 1 target, and was traded in the offseason. Like, to me, like, that would be, if you were to call somebody a bust, it would be something more like that. Jamarcus Russell, I guess because in the end it didn't work out the way that he wanted it to. And he was the number 1 overall pick. But I don't know, it's kind of tough. Like, I feel like these things need time to play out. And even Jamarcus Russell, he had his time to let it play out. So, yeah. But anyways, let's talk about these Denver Broncos. And they played against Seattle Seahawks. They only put up 16 points. But I think, like, when you watch the game, they look like the more dominant team. And that's what made me so confident about the 49ers against Seattle. Because I'm like, no, I actually watched the Denver Bronco game. Denver Bronco, they pretty much dominated that entire game, but they fumbled twice inside the 1. Now, Seattle would say, well, we are the ones that held them. We are the ones that forced the fumble. I get it. But I felt like watching the game, the Broncos beat themselves more than Seattle beat the Broncos. So watching that game, I'm like, oh, man, like, the Broncos, like, they'll get back on track, just like I said the 49ers would against Seattle. But second game, that wasn't good. That wasn't good. So let's talk about just some of the things that happened in the first game. I thought the Denver Broncos did a really good job of shooting themselves in the foot over and over and over. They outgained the Seattle Seahawks by 200 yards. They had way more plays than the Seattle Seahawks. They had 330 passing yards to 177. They had more rushing yards, more yards per carry. The issue was they had more penalties, over 100 yards in penalties. Their time of possession was better. Like, they really kind of dominated that game. But then you go to the Houston game. Oh, again, they dominated the game, but then they turned the ball over too much and too many penalties. So that was where they lost. Then you go to the Houston game, and Russell Wilson played one of the worst games I've ever seen him play. And I was watching the game. I was in and out on watching it. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on? I'm checking, like, stats and numbers and what it's looking like. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And Russell Wilson, which I don't think I've ever seen him complete less than 50% of his passes, but he completed less than 50% of his passes. 1 touchdown, 1 pick, got sacked 3 times. His QBR was 45. Like, he ain't play well. He didn't play well. And then they end up losing Jerry Jeudy. And I think that's going to be a big thing, kind of, right? When you look at the 49ers, how their defense is built. And if you don't have Jerry Jeudy, I mean, they have Cortland Sutton, and Sutton's good. I think the 49ers match up well against Cortland Sutton. I think Jerry Jeudy poses a little bit more of a threat with his dynamic ability from the slot. I will say Samuel Womack for the 49ers right now has done a terrific job. I don't even know if he's given up a catch. Maybe he's given up 1 or 2 catches, and they weren't anything too crazy because I can't even think of it off the top of my head. So when I look at this team, I still don't know who they are. They run Williams. I really like the way Williams runs, and if you ask my guy, Jason Aponte, he likes Javonte Williams. He liked him more than Elijah Mitchell. I think he runs well, but it feels like they're trying to find this balance between Williams and Gordon running the rock. I don't know who the Broncos are, and hopefully, you and I, we can come on here and we could talk about it. Talk about like who are they? Are they the team that they've only scored 16 points in each game, but are they the team that really looked like they dominated Seattle but lost because of their own self-inflicted errors, or are they the team that kind of barely beat Houston, which I don't want to say barely, a win is a win, but they didn't play very well at all. Which team are they? I don't know. So hopefully we could talk about that. It took 10 points in the fourth quarter to win. They were actually down 9-6 going into the fourth quarter. All right, that's weird stuff. So here we go. I didn't have a whole lot to come on here and talk about this morning, but we definitely will get in here. I'll have y'all come on live. We didn't get to do this yesterday because I had to dip out with some business stuff, but here we go. Y'all come on live. Let's talk about how y'all feel about this situation here, this game. Are you confident? Are you not confident? I'll get into the chat, see what everybody got going on, but just have an nice open conversation. All right, here we go. If Surtain doesn't play, that puts Darby on Debo. I would say this, and I talked about this last night with the Locked On Broncos host, and if you listen to Locked On 49ers with myself, Brian Peacock, 5 days a week, I know a lot of y'all listen to it. There was somebody who was like, Croc, Locked On ain't it? And listen, I appreciate this guy. He listens to a lot of my content, so shout out to him. But he said, Locked On ain't it? And I'm like, man, Locked On 49ers, dude, we got the #1 podcast on the network. The #1 podcast on the network. Shout out to all y'all that listen to it. But it is it. Locked On 49ers is it, man. We're pulling in some crazy numbers daily. So, yeah, as far as that, I had to say that. But anyways, we talked about this. Surtain, he asked who was the bigger guy that they potentially missed, which I expect Surtain to play. I expect Jerry Jeudy to play. But let's say if you had to pick one that didn't play, I told him, like, if I'm the Broncos, I would rather Surtain not play because Kyle Shanahan, the way he schemes against opposing defenses is not to really single out the corners. I think he does a really good job of putting the underneath, or I'd say linebackers and safeties in the bind, and does things to really attack the rules of their coverage. So from that standpoint, the outside guys, I would say, are kind of more or less than a factor. Now, we did see Brandon Ayuk get 2 pass interferences downfield. Maybe that makes a difference, but that's something new. I haven't seen that. So we'll see if Jimmy Garoppolo continues to throw those vertical passes down the sideline. And if that's the case, then I would stay away from Surtain. But just in general, it's like, oh, man, he's going to be out. Oh, man, they got Deebo Samuel. It's like, well, a lot of what they do with Deebo is scheme. So, screens, some slants and whatnot, but over routes, some things that work against opposing team schemes. So, Surtain being out, we'll see. But I don't think it means, Surtain doesn't play. That means Darby on Deebo. I mean, Deebo moves around. You would see that matchup, kind of regardless. Here we go. I got Terry Dome coming in. Good morning, Terry Dome. How you doing?
Would it be? How's my vocals? How am I sounding? Am I 5 by 5?
Man, you sound good and full-throated.
Full-throated. Adjective, produced or expressed with full power of voice, loud and powerful. A full-throated cry. That's what that means. I know it went off the rails a little bit at my expense. Hey, man. But, hey, I should have said, say it with your chest.
There we go.
For
Then I wouldn't have had the reaction I had. But
yes,
it caught
for
me
the
off guard.
for
Well,
the
I would say,
challenged, it means say it with your chest, like a preacher. Say it. And,
hey, Greg
that's
Pinelli
how
knew what it
Kyle
meant, though.
doesn't do.
I would say Greg knew what it meant. It was I was the one that was kind of caught off guard by it. But
It's cool. We live in a society where, if you say one thing, it can go. It's a whole sermon on Matthew 4 about the 4 types of hearers. If y'all get time, go to YouTube on Terror Dome. I preached on that a while ago.
yeah,
The Denver Broncos. I noticed that they play a lot of off coverage. I think we'll be open in for lack of a better term, this is going to be Jimmy's bag right here. I think the shallow crosses, I think screens, I think the speed outs will definitely be there. Debo should eat on this one. And with Jerry Jeudy being out, Cortland Sutton looks like that is Russ's new security blanket. He targets him. I think 50% of the time, maybe 45% of the time in the games that I've watched them do. And as far as their running backs, they do run hard, but Croc, man, they put it on the ground right much in pivotal times, like down in the goal line. Are you seeing the same thing I am?
well, we definitely saw that against Seattle. And that jumped out, right? I think that was why they lost. So right now we're looking at a team that is 1-on-1 and people have doubts. I think a big part of that doubt is because of their inability to punch it in on the goal line, on the 1 yard line twice against Seattle. So, we're talking about potentially a yard and a half worth of distance that has changed the entire outlook on the Denver Broncos.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And what's pivotal and what's incumbent, meaning what we should be doing on our behalf on defense, what I'd really like to see, what I'm begging to see, what I want to see so much is we have a 6'7" tackle and a 6'5" tackle. Please, guys, I'm begging you, get those big hands up and knock down the 5'10" Russell Wilson's. But I'd like to see 2 batted balls because he's short. Him and Murray, it's like it's manna from heaven. If we could just get our hands up, I would like to see some batted balls. And as far as Ekebom and Bosa, contain, because Russ will jump around the corner of the defense and extend stuff and play hero ball or backyard ball or whatever y'all would call it. We got to contain, and I think, man, we're gonna be in there. I think it's right for the taking.
We talked about some of the injuries that they dealt with. I'm looking at the injury reports for the Denver Broncos, and there's been a lot of talk about Patrick Surtain and him potentially being out. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy, but I think maybe the biggest name I'm seeing right now on their practice report, guys who did not practice yesterday, and again, that does include Jerry Jeudy, Patrick Surtain, and others, but Randy Gregory, that's the one that kind of really sticks out to me because, they got Bradley Chubb, and he's a terrific defensive end. But, man, and again, I don't know their depth chart as well as someone else might that, pays more closer attention to the Denver Broncos. But not having Randy Gregory, I'd assume, opposite Bradley Chubb, you would think that would make a difference. Now, maybe it didn't against the Houston Texans, but it definitely will against the San Francisco 49ers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And if things will look a little familiar to us this week, it is because you're going to see a few former 49ers out there. You're going to see, I think, our big tackle we used to love so much and covet so much. He's out there, as well as K'Wan Williams. And the defensive coordinator was with us back in the Vic Fangio days, in the Harbaugh days, 2011 through 2013. They get around. They fly around, and they got a couple of dogs out there. So be advised.
All right, here we go. We got Martin Stewart here, and Martin says, "Yo, E, do you think we will see any of the playmakers ever get over 100 yards? Do you think we will see any of our playmakers ever
Wide
get
receiver
over
or
100 yards?"
running.
Yeah, I mean, we see that. I mean, Debo Samuel is pretty easy. I mean, because when you say ever, that kind of, to me, it sounds like 49ers don't ever have guys that go over 100. But I think they do quite often, right? Well, at
Collectively,
least Debo does. Debo does quite
collectively
often.
they do, but the way Cal's been doing it, he's been doing it a little bit by committee. Once Jeff Wilson Jr. gets a little hot, he might come in and spell him a little bit with another running back, and it throws the stat. If you're playing fantasy football, it throws the stat off a little bit, but in terms of the collective, it's you still getting 150 yards. It's just broken into increments. I had an argument with a guy years ago when Baltimore was doing so good. He was like, the 49ers don't run it that well. I said, we don't have a big rush. We don't have one single rusher doing it well. It was that time we had Breida and Mostert, and we would do it by committee. But you'll get it, but you won't get it in lump sum as the lottery gives you.
Yeah, because right now, let's see if I can bring up rushing numbers right now. We got passing leaders, sacks. Hold on, I'm looking at. Let's look at complete stats. Hold on. Rushing. I'm trying to look at where the 49ers are. 49ers are fourth in rushing right now.
There you go.
So, yeah, as far as 49ers being able to run the ball, they're going to run the rock.
We're going to run the rock. We're going to
averaging 182 rushing yards a game.
There you
Which
go.
we'll see. I think over the season, I think the 49ers will be able to sustain that more so than Detroit Lions and Philadelphia Eagles that are ahead of them.
Yeah.
Now, they also have Cleveland, and I think Cleveland will be able to run the rock. We'll see. But as far as being able to sustain, that amount of yards per game, 49ers, they'll be up there.
Yeah, because it lends itself to the offense. It's just the fact that if you're looking for a single point of failure, I guess that's a bad term to say, but like a bell cow guy, my man Jonathan Taylor up in Indianapolis, he will carry the lion's share of all of their carries. He's going to get 25 carries, so he's going to be their 100-yard back. But with us, Debo's going to eat. Jeff Wilson Jr. is going to eat. When he comes back, TDP is going to eat. I'm hoping, God, please put in my boy Jordan Mason. I would like to see him get down and get some, man. I'd like to do it that way better.
Well, you'll see him this game for sure because they don't have any other choice, right? I mean, you're damn bad with the running back situation. You have obviously Jeff Wilson, and then outside of him, you lost Tyler Price. You don't have Elijah Mitchell, so I'd assume that they'll go in there. Jordan Mason to get his touches. We'll see what happens with Marlon Mack. Obviously they brought back Tevin Coleman. He's on the practice squad, but I think this would be a good opportunity for Jordan Mason to start to kind of get some touches, and we'll see how he does. But tear it on, man. I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to get the next caller on.
God bless you, my brother. Thank you for having me on.
All right. You have a good one. Here we go. Coming on now, I got Mr. Jeffrey Ray. How you doing, man?
What's up, Croc? How you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm chilling.
Cool. Hey, I just wanted to touch on a couple things real quick with Jimmy. I called into a couple other places because, obviously we were heartbroken about what happened to Trey. But do you think that Jimmy has more motivation or ever had more motivation than he's got right now to come in this season and just go off? After the off season that he had, after all the media stuff that's been going on, him being a free agent, I honestly see him coming in with the offense clicking with him and supporting him so much, and the reaction that he got after he threw that touchdown. I just see him coming in and going off.
I don't see Jimmy as someone who works off of like motivation or at least something like that, right? I think he understood what the situation was, the business aspect of it, and he knows if he just goes out there, does his best, and at least does what he's done in the past, he'll get paid this offseason. So I don't know if it's, oh man, like, I feel slighted. I've been treated wrong. I think his teammates, the way they rally around him for the touchdown, that lets you know, like, they understand. And I've talked about that, right? There are some people like, oh, look, see, they're behind Jimmy Garoppolo. Look how excited they are for him. Oh, yeah, like, dude, that's their teammate. They done seen everything, how it's all played out. They see how everybody talks about Jimmy Garoppolo in the media. They see how fans have attacked Jimmy Garoppolo. So those dudes were excited for him. And I'd say this, you'll see the same excitement for Trey Lance when, he has to go through this adversity, a broken ankle, and that time where he scores that touchdown and you'll see people rally behind him. So I think right now with Jimmy Garoppolo, is he more motivated than he would have been otherwise? Like, he comes off of someone, he's just going to go out there and do his best and do his job. So
how I'm looking at it though is like he came in from the Patriots, played 5 games, got hurt, but came back and got the bag. He got the bag right away, and he's went to a Super Bowl and then a championship game. He's been to the playoffs, and I'm pretty sure last year he was thinking, they just drafted this young guy. If I get to the championship game, there's no doubt that somebody's going to sign me if they want to move off of me. And that didn't happen, Coming in this season now, Trey Lance gets hurt. I just think there's a lot more motivation for him to play well this year than there ever has been before. He got the bag right away when he came to San Francisco from the Patriots,
Yeah, and that's something as well. Maybe feeling a little disrespected by the market or lack thereof for him. I remember right before the 49ers just kind of restructured his contract to keep him. Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter, I was listening to one of those guys, and they were like, there's zero market for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Like, nobody.
What happens if he comes through and wins the Super Bowl? Like, what do we do then?
That's a tough situation for the 49ers. And, I mean, I would say this. If you are the coaching staff, it is a weird situation in the sense of what you gave up for Jimmy Garoppolo. But also, I mean, that for them, they're probably looking at like, dude, we won a Super Bowl. So, whatever decision they make after that, whether it's to keep Jimmy or let Jimmy go, I mean, they won a Super Bowl. So I don't know. I don't look at that as like a bad thing, even if that means they decide to keep Jimmy Garoppolo around.
Right.
Now,
Right.
I don't necessarily see that happening in the sense of keeping him. And maybe, again, I assume, even like last year, right? I remember thinking 49ers would be really good with Jimmy Garoppolo. They'll be a good team. They'll be a tough out. And as you're watching them go through the playoffs, like, you see that, right? Like, they're a tough out with Jimmy. We know that.
Yeah,
I just never felt
despite all the injuries.
Yeah. I never felt like the 49ers would win the Super Bowl because of Jimmy, right? And I think when you think of keeping Jimmy Garoppolo for the long term, it means that, man, this is the guy that really gets you over the hump in the sense of like really moving the needle. Now, he moves the needle more than a guy that is inexperienced.
Yeah.
Right.
And okay, so then my last thing then, if you had to rate, between 2019, 2021 and today, we improved in the quarterback situation as long as Trey Lance could develop. Now we're back to Jimmy G. How are we looking in other aspects of the team? How's the defense looking compared to those years? And then how's the offensive line? Like, who we were most concerned of in the beginning of the season seems like they're playing really well, and Hufanga's going off.
Man, I think right now, I mean, they have just as good of a chance of anything as they did in 2019.
Yeah.
I think, when you look at how that season played out with Jimmy Garoppolo and the things that he was able to do, I think with this team that's structured around him right now, they might even be more suited to be able to do those things on offense and on defense. And you look at how the cornerbacks are playing, I think that makes it to where you could do a little bit more defensively. I mean, I really like the way that this team is kind of built right now. And I think they'll get some of the guys back at the right time, like Elijah Mitchell coming back for the second half of the season. He'll have to prove that he can stay healthy. But I think they're – and it's hard to say that because at the end – that team in 2019, that defense, man, when they were clicking, I mean, it was ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And I'd say that, and there was a time where they kind of hit a low point. They dealt with a lot of injuries late in that year. But come playoff time, I mean, they were right back to being like just this smothering defense. So I don't want to be disrespectful to 2019 and the production that they got out of a lot of guys that year on the defense. But I do think that there's a scenario where this defense is potentially better.
I think a lot of people forget that we're going to get Ward back soon, and then a lot of people have also forgot about Barrett. You know, he's coming back too.
Right. I see somebody just put him in the chat. Talk about him in the chat.
Yep. All right, man. That's all I got for you. Thank you for letting me come on, man.
All right. Appreciate you, man.
Have a good one.
All right. Here we go. Diving into the chat here. And again, I appreciate everybody's in here right now. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Also, check out the episode last night. Went on last night with Quincy Avery, Greg Pinelli. We talked all things quarterbacks. Had some good things to say about Trey Lance. And he talked about Trey Lance and Jalen Hurts. And I talked to him about that. I asked, like, how good did it feel, for somebody you've been working with? He started working with Jalen Hurts after the championship where he got benched, right? I think, y'all remember that. Tua came in at halftime, played the rest of that game. They won the championship. He started working with Hurts after that. And they just talked about just kind of the transition from, playing at Alabama that next year where he was on the bench, going to Oklahoma, the things that are said about him coming out, dealing with it last year, and then kind of how this year has started for Jalen Hurts and kind of I asked him, how good does it feel to see a guy that you've worked with kind of, take that jump. And he was like, man, between him and Trey Lance, he said, out of all the guys he's worked with, and he works with a lot of guys, he works with a lot of NFL quarterbacks. He said those are the two best guys up here. Two best guys, Jalen Hurts and Trey Lance. And when you look at some of the adversities that Hurts has had to overcome, just in his career to this point, whether it's college or NFL, I think seeing how he played the other night, Monday night, it was exciting for me to watch. I always root for a good story. If Jimmy doesn't turn the ball over too much, we good. D is good. Yeah, D, pause, John. Yeah. I think the 49ers are good, and I think they've shown this, right? And I know some people are like, Croc, like, what side of the fence are you on when it comes to focus back in here, when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo? And I'm on the side of the fence where I just understand what Jimmy Garoppolo is and what he isn't. But one thing that Jimmy Garoppolo has shown us is the ability that, hey, even when I do turn the ball over, we can still win games. So, and I see you're saying here, like, too much, right? You don't want him to turn over too much, but we do know, like, you can still get by with Jimmy Garoppolo, even with the weird kind of turnovers that happen with him. So, yeah. Are you scared of that one bad throw Jimmy makes a game, or do you think he won't try to throw into tight window? I'd say he's going to throw into tight windows because that's where he works best. There was this low light clip that was out, and it was showing all Jimmy Garoppolo's like bad throws from this past game. And first of all, let me kind of put this out here as well. There was no game plan for Jimmy. He didn't practice as the starter. He comes in mid-game. I didn't expect him to do like anything too crazy. Now, he started off 5 of 5. That was awesome. And then after that, he kind of tapered off, right? And we see some of the weird throws and whatnot. I'd say it was cool to see him attempt more shots outside the numbers and down the field. That was great because we haven't really seen that, especially like consistently from Jimmy Garoppolo. But that's not going to be his bread and butter. His bread and butter is the quick timing passes, precise, over the middle. And the tough thing is when you live in that area, you just open the room for, there's more of a chance to not see a linebacker. There's more of a chance to have a tip or an overthrow or be slightly off and it goes off somebody's hand and picked off. So I just think because of where Jimmy Garoppolo lives, for the most part in this offense, at least what we've seen consistently, there's going to be that throw that you speak of. But again, he has shown the ability to be able to overcome like that one throw. Now, does it make it a little bit tougher? And I've talked about this with Jimmy Garoppolo. I feel like there are a lot of games where, Jimmy doesn't blow you out. It has to be like the defense, it has to be the run game, et cetera, because the more he throws, he is going to do one of those throws, and he doesn't create a lot of the explosive plays outside of maybe catch and run opportunities for guys. And I think that's a harder way to play, but I think that's why also you see some games be much closer than what they have to be, right? Like Tennessee. He threw a couple of interceptions in the Tennessee game, and you look at these and like, dang, like, you missed a throw to Kyle Juszczyk, and that was a game where it felt like the 49ers should blow them out. And it didn't happen, and you would hope at this point in his career he doesn't have those type of games. But I think for some of these other guys that we see, like, that are playing like next level, right? Like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, they can have weird throws, weird moments, turn the ball over, etc. And it's not going to matter because they also create so many explosive plays that are really hard to account for. So I think that's the difference between kind of having those type of guys. And I remember watching the game last year, right? And I should look at these stats. Hold on. Let me try to pull up the stats from this game. So you had the Chiefs and the Bills playing. And at one point in that game, I said to myself, hold on, let me look at Chiefs, Bills, playoff stats. Excuse me. At one point in that game, I remember saying to myself, like, man, see, you don't need these crazy, look at the score. So heading into the fourth quarter, the score was 21-23. And I'm looking at that, and I'm like, nah, man, like, after all that, after having all those, these explosive quarterbacks, whatever, the score is 21-23. Not even anything crazy, like 49ers score points like that. And then the fourth quarter happened, where there was like 5 touchdowns scored or whatever it was. And it was just boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, our quarterback can't do that. Right? Now, you don't want him to have to do it. Ideally, nobody wants their quarterback to have to do that. I'm pretty sure Buffalo and Kansas City would prefer their quarterback not have to do that. And it's like, hey, if our defense plays better, then we don't have to go through that. But when you have quarterbacks that are just that good. Now, these are the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL. So that's kind of an outlier situation. But just kind of watching it and just knowing like what your quarterback is and what he isn't, you hope he doesn't get into situations like that. We cannot direct the wind. We can only direct ourselves. Root for who's there, Jimmy or Trey or Brock or Cap. I like that. I feel like I missed it. Did I miss a super chat? Here's a good one. Trey had awful throws. You put throws, but I know what you meant, throws. Every QB has bad throws. Every QB does, right? Every quarterback has bad throws. This is 100% fact. And if you watch games on Sunday, you see it. I talked about it watching Patrick Mahomes, what was it, Sunday evening or was it Thursday, last Thursday. And I was like, man, there were some terrible throws. But that's not the issue. The issue it's not the terrible throws. All right. The issue is being able to like truly overcome your terrible throws, right? So I can deal with a terrible throw. I can deal with these things if you are going to throw me out of that, right? So like you throw an interception or whatever, but then you come back and you throw 4 touchdowns, cool. I think it's much more difficult when, all right, and I know I'm just trying to make sense of it. This is not me like just getting on Jimmy. I think Jimmy's good. If 49ers are in the Super Bowl right now, I would not be surprised because they have Jimmy Garoppolo. So let me make that clear. All right. But if you go back and you watch the playoff game against the Dallas Cowboys, you have Jimmy Garoppolo who makes a bad throw. He throws a pick. Everybody throws picks. But he throws a pick and then he does nothing after that to overcome that interception, right? Like we're talking about playoffs, big moment. Like, dude, we need you to make a play. We need you to do something. And he's like, well, I just can't. Like, that's not me. All right? Like, that's not me. And then you watch him against the Green Bay Packers the next week, and he throws his red zone interception. And it's like, dude, I need you to make – and he's like, it's not me. You want me to do something that's not me. So you better hope Debo returns a kickoff to midfield. You better hope. And I'm not saying like he did have a throw. I remember George Kittle dropped the ball in that game. But we're just saying in the sense of like stuff gets tight. You got the guy that's going to really be able to overcome the adversities that he kind of set you up for early on. And that's just not him. Super Bowl against Kansas City Chiefs. and it's like, hey, dude, these dudes are coming right now. Patrick Mahomes starting to cook. We're not going to be able to hold him off anymore. Jimmy, we need you to make a play. And it's like, bro, that's not me. It's not me. Like, that's not what I do. So when we talk about offer throws, everybody has them, Trey, whatever, and you hope that Trey turns into a guy who, yeah, I have a bad throw, but man, I'm going to overcome that with, boom, I'm hitting Jawan Jennings on a slot fade. I'm making layered throws. I'm doing these things and just being more consistent at that. But yeah, that's the part where, you know, everybody does have bad throws, but you watch these quarterbacks and it's like, oh man, that was a terrible throw. But then boom, 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 bomb, bomb, bomb. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, yeah. Here we go. I have a super chat here. P.S. Croc, I enjoyed the Mike and Quincy podcast last night. Greg and Quincy podcast last night. The nuts and bolts of the QB position was cool to hear. Yeah, and you know, we talked a lot about different things, but when they were asked, even Quincy asked about, and I want to say maybe it was Terradome that asked a question about something here, and the way that Quincy was talking about, oh, soft shoulder here, there, then the ball coming through. And yeah, when they get into all that, I love it. I love that stuff. So yeah, no, that was cool stuff. I'm going to say 187's, it's we win, right? So it's like, okay, Jimmy does that, but then he doesn't do this, but then the 49ers win. That is true until it's not true, right? And when you have 10-point lead in the NFC Championship game, it's good on good, it's great on great, and you got a 10-point lead, and it's like, dude, we are in prime position to win this game. Just need a quarterback to make a play. And what, bro, that's not me. Or in the Packers game when, hey, we need the quarterback, and then it's like, well, yeah, we won. Could block the punt for a touchdown. We gotta be real at some point. Gotta be real. Quarterback gotta make a play. Like, gotta make a play. Unless he doesn't. So if you look at Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Super Bowl and your defense scores multiple touchdowns and the other team can't move the ball and you end up scoring 35, then you don't and you win, and it's great. And that's why I say, and you'll never hear me say, and there's other people that say, Jimmy Garoppolo can't win a Super Bowl. You'll never hear me say that. Ever. I 100% am convinced you can win a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. So don't come in here with me trying to tell me how, you know what I'm saying, what we win. I'm just telling you what's real. And what's real is you have a quarterback that, like, the things for the 49ers to win the Super Bowl, it got to be perfect. And I cringe at the thought of 49ers going up against what potentially, let's say, in the Super Bowl. Let's say 49ers in the Super Bowl. And you got Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen on the other side. Like, bro, that's going to be tough. Now, it'll be tough for anybody. But it's even tougher when you need your quarterback. Like, bro, I need you to make throws. I need you to make plays in these big moments. And it's like, bro, that's not me. And then you got the other quarterback, like, and Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, like, they're going to do that. And that's what you eventually have to go up against. It's not me getting on Jimmy. I'm just being real. But I don't think Jimmy trash at all. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. It's the close games and big games where Jimmy becomes nervous. I'll say this. I think there are examples of Jimmy Garoppolo being good in the last couple minutes of games, situations. I've seen him look like he's not flustered at all and do well. I think right now the tough thing for him is the 49ers' expectations are really high, right? And that was the thing with Trey Lance. Oh, no, you can't do Trey Lance, blah, blah. But the 49ers' expectations are so high that it's just not good enough to have a fourth quarter comeback against the Rams in week 6 or something, right? I remember 2019, man, he made those big throws, and that was good, right? 2 big throws, 3rd down and long. Kendrick Bourne, 1st down, 3rd down and long. Manuel Sanders, 1st down, kick a field goal, win. Like, that's awesome. But where the 49ers are right now, it's not good enough to have that comeback then, because everybody's expectations, and this is why a lot of people did not want Trey Lance to be playing, the expectations are Super Bowl. So all that other stuff is irrelevant. Now it's, what are you going to do in those playoff games when we need you most and we need you to come through. And the tough thing is, at least what Jimmy Garoppolo has shown us to this point, and I'm somebody that defends Jimmy Garoppolo in the last 2 minutes. God is my witness. This chat is my witness. Everybody's my witness. I think that Jimmy is one of the more clutch quarterbacks in the last 2 minutes. But in the playoffs, that hasn't necessarily been the case. And in the fourth quarter, and again, this is what we know so far with the information that's been gathered, etc., over plenty of opportunities. He is the worst fourth quarter quarterback in NFL history. The worst fourth quarter quarterback in NFL history. That's not an opinion. That's factual up until this point. And that's not to say that 49ers can't win with him. Because again, I'll say that you can win a Super Bowl with him. But you better block a punt, run it back for a touchdown. He had one arm last year. Well, he had two arms in the Super Bowl run previously. And, I mean, it was the same thing. Where it's like, hey, I need you to make a play. Kansas City's coming. I hate that. I don't want to talk about it no more. I'm going to stop responding to you. Because I don't want to come off as if, like, I don't think that Jimmy Garoppolo could win. So I'm going to stop responding to you. Because you're asking these questions. I know you hear what I'm saying. I know you hear what I'm saying. I know you get what I'm saying. I know everybody in this chat gets what I'm saying. So I'm just not going to respond to him anymore. You know what I'm saying? We get it. We get it. Anyways, man, shout out to everybody in the chat right now. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. I think that's good for today. How y'all feeling about the game? We're going to come on tomorrow. I'm not sure what time I got to take my brother to the airport. But maybe I'll come on at 8. We'll just go from 8 to 9. And then we'll just get that hour in. And I say 8 Central. So that's like 6 a.m. Y'all good with 6 a.m. Pacific? And we'll just go from 6 to 7. Now I got to take my brother to the airport. How y'all feel about that? But yeah, man, hit the like, hit subscribe. I don't want to talk bad about Jimmy G. I don't want to talk bad about Jimmy G. I know what Jimmy G is and what he isn't. And I think he's a good quarterback. I think he is a quarterback that you can, you'll win a lot of games with. I think that the 49ers, I think their odds, their win games, the over-under went up like 1, and I think rightfully so. I think their Super Bowl odds improved. I think rightfully so when you're going from someone that hasn't played a whole lot of football and, you know, still figuring things out to Jimmy Garoppolo. You know exactly what you're getting. The odds makers, they know exactly what they're getting. I also know exactly what I'm getting from him in all spectrums of it. But yeah, that's going to do it for this episode, man. Appreciate everybody that's in here. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. I'll see y'all tomorrow morning. We're going to go on a little earlier. All right. Till then, I'm out. Peace.
Intercepted. It is picked off by Aaron Rodgers over midfield. He'll run it all the way into the end zone. Touchdown.
Crop Talk TV podcast. Peace.